Have you ever picked up a Galaxy Z Fold and thought, this is close, but not quite there yet? Because I have been saying that for years. Samsung basically created the modern foldable phone market. The Z Fold series put book-style foldables on the map and forced every other brand, Google, OnePlus, Huawei, you name it, to respond. But for me, using a Z Fold as my actual daily phone has always felt like a compromise. It was impressive, it was futuristic, but it never felt quite right. That might finally be about to change. Recent leaks about a wider Galaxy Z Fold, essentially a wide Z Fold redesign, have completely flipped how I see Samsung's foldable future. And honestly, this might be the first Samsung foldable phone I would actually spend my own money on without hesitation. Today, we're diving deep into why this leaked wide Galaxy Z Fold could be the game-changer Samsung desperately needs, and, more importantly, why it might finally give Google's Pixel Fold some serious real competition in the wide foldable form factor. So stick around, because we're about to explore what could be Samsung's most important foldable design decision in years. Let me start with a confession that might surprise some of you. I have never truly fallen in love with Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold series. I respect it. I respect what Samsung did for the foldable market. They took the risk, brought early versions to consumers, and iterated in public while everyone else watched from the sidelines. Without the Z Fold, we probably wouldn't even be talking about Pixel Fold versus Z Fold or wide foldables at all, but actually using a Z Fold every day. That's been a completely different story. In the early years, my complaints were pretty standard. The first versions felt fragile, like something you had to baby. Performance didn't always feel on par with Samsung's own S-series, flagships. And there simply weren't many alternatives, so it felt like you were paying a premium just to be a beta tester. As time went on and more brands joined the foldable phone game, my issues with Samsung's design became more specific and less about early tech and more about the actual form factor. The Z Fold series has always felt like two tall, skinny phones awkwardly glued together. The outer cover screen was the biggest offender. It was tall and narrow, almost like a TV remote with apps. Typing felt cramped. Reaching across it with one hand was uncomfortable. You could use it, but it didn't feel like a natural, full-fledged phone. Then you'd open it up, and the inner display was almost square. Big, yes, impressive, yes, but that near-square aspect ratio never felt fully optimized for what I actually wanted to do on a large display. Reading? It worked, but it didn't feel like a real book or magazine layout. Watching videos? You got giant black bars and not nearly as much content filling the screen as you'd expect. Multitasking? It was powerful, but felt like you were trying to force phone apps to live on a weirdly shaped canvas. Everything changed for me when I got my hands on Google's Pixel Fold. The Pixel Fold took a completely different approach to the foldable phone form factor. Instead of making a tall and narrow phone that turns into a squarish tablet, Google went wide from the start. It felt less like two tall phones glued together and more like two shorter, wider phones connected by a hinge. The difference was immediate. The moment I picked it up, the outer display on the Pixel Fold actually felt like a normal phone. It was wider, easier to type on, and I could comfortably reach across it with my thumb. It didn't feel like a cover screen I was forced to tolerate. It felt like a real primary display. Then, when I unfolded it, the inner display had proportions that made sense for tablet-style tasks. Reading felt natural. Two-page views felt like holding an actual book. Web pages had room to breathe, instead of feeling squashed or stretched. Watching videos meant less letterboxing and more true content fill. Multitasking, running 2 or 3 apps side by side, suddenly felt genuinely useful instead of like a party trick. It was like Google had asked, what if a foldable actually tried to be a mini tablet, and then designed everything, from hardware to software, to support that answer. Now I'll admit, I've always leaned toward Google's software anyway. I like clean Android. I like fast and consistent updates. I like how Pixel devices handle AI features, photos, and little quality-of-life details. So at first, I just assumed I was biased. Maybe I liked the Pixel Fold so much just because it was a Pixel. That's what I thought. until the Galaxy Z Fold 7 launched earlier this year. With the Z Fold 7, Samsung finally fixed a lot of my earlier complaints. When closed, it was roughly as thin as a regular Galaxy S25, no more feeling like you're carrying a brick. The cameras were legitimately good, not an afterthought. Performance was properly flagship grade. The hinge and build quality felt refined and durable, not experimental. For the first time ever, I could see myself actually carrying a Galaxy Z Fold as my main phone. Well, almost. That internal aspect ratio was still bothering me. The nearly square inner display made it feel less like a compact tablet and more like a slightly awkward big phone. It was impressive, but it still wasn't the ideal shape for the things I actually wanted to do on a foldable. And then the leaks started. Animations and internal software strings began surfacing that showed Samsung experimenting with a wider Z Fold design, a wide Z Fold that clearly took inspiration from the Pixel Fold's proportions. Suddenly, everything clicked. The leaked animations show a Galaxy Z Fold with a shorter, wider outer display, something you can actually use like a normal phone. A more horizontally friendly inner display, less square, more tablet-like, and much closer to what we've seen on the Pixel Fold and some Chinese foldables. If Samsung can combine this new wide form factor with the thin, refined hardware they've achieved on the Z Fold 7, we might be looking at something truly special. Imagine this. An 8-inch internal AMOLED display with proper tablet-style proportions, in a device that's still under 10mm thick when closed, with flagship cameras, S-series level performance, and Samsung's best display tech. That would be the best of both worlds. Google's smart, wide foldable design philosophy, with Samsung's insane display quality, hardware engineering, and global reach. But the form factor is only one half of the story. The real question is, what does a wide Galaxy Z Fold actually change in day-to-day use? Let's start with media consumption, the thing a lot of us care about most on big screens. Right now, watching video on current Galaxy Z Fold models is fine, but never amazing. That almost square inner display just isn't friendly to today's content. Most movies, YouTube videos, and shows are shot in wider aspect ratios. On the current Z Fold, that means thick black bars above and below your content. You have this big, futuristic folding screen, and your video ends up looking smaller than you'd expect. Sure, you can rotate the device, zoom in, or crop a little. But then, you're usually cutting off parts of the frame or staring at a crease running horizontally through the middle of the image. It's never a perfect experience. A wider Z Fold could fix that almost instantly. With a more rectangular inner screen, something closer to a tablet aspect ratio, you'd get less letterboxing for videos, more content filling the screen. A viewing experience that feels more cinematic and less compromised. Now, it probably won't be as wide as Samsung's Galaxy Tab lineup, which uses very media-friendly aspect ratios like 16:10. If Samsung went that wide on a phone, it would be uncomfortable to hold when closed, but even moving part of the way toward that tablet ratio would be a huge improvement over the current almost square fold screens. Combine that with Samsung's incredible AMOLED tech, deep blacks, vibrant colors, high brightness, fast refresh rate, and you've suddenly got arguably one of the best portable Netflix, YouTube, and gaming machines in your pocket.